Hey there everyone, welcome to another video with Rebel Resource. Today we got an exciting sneak peek at some of the new mechanics in the next set, Shadows of the Galaxy. And let's go and take a look here. All right, so I pulled them up on SWDB. I'll have the link down below if you want to see these in more detail. There's even some more cards as well. But we're going to be going through each one of these cards here and just kind of talking through my general thoughts about them, possible impact they could have on the game, considering existing mechanics and meta and things like that. So the first one is going to be Underworld Turncoat. It's a 2/3 for 1 in Cunning and Heroism. Very interesting, super aggressive card, but it comes with a downside. This card kind of reminds me of like Goblin Guide, which I'll show a picture of right now. So basically it's a 2/3 in space, and you can play it on turn 1. You can play it later in the game if you have 1 resource open, and you know it's a pretty aggressively costed. But the downside is if this unit is defeated, your opponent gets to draw a card, defeated or captured, and that can be pretty bad, especially if your opponent has the initiative and they attack in with like an A-wing, which is a 1/3 with raid 2. A-wing can attack into this and kill it. So I'm not sure how good this card is. What I think this card is really good with is Leia. What I mean by that is like you play Leia on tap a resource, so you have a 2/2 in ground, and then you can immediately have a your next action on turn 1 can be a 2/3 in space. But I still think this card is not very good, sadly. I don't think it's gonna see play because that downside is a really, really, really bad downside. I will say that this card is not it's not a rebel as well, so that's a problem. So it doesn't have any rebel synergy with existing cards. If we get like a ton more 1-drops, maybe, just maybe, you could have like a Cunning Heroism aggro deck. But I just think that this card has too much of a downside. If it were a 3/3 for 3, I would say this would be playable. Still not great, but playable. Actually, it would be fantastic. If this were a 3/2 for 1, I think this would be fantastic. The fact that it's got 2 power though means it's really not that aggressive, and things like A-Wing can attack in for 3. This can only attack in for 2. It's just not as good. So the next card here is going to be Hotshot DL44 Blaster. That is a mouthful. It is a upgrade that gives you +2 attack and 0 HP. It can only attach to non-vehicle units. But what's interesting is the smuggle mechanic, which you can't really read this here. But essentially what this means, smuggle means you pay its smuggle cost, and you can smuggle cards that are resources. So if you resource this card, you can play it for its smuggle cost later in the game, and sometimes you get a bonus for playing it that way. And then you replace it with the top card of your deck, which is kind of interesting because you could like smuggle something and then like put a card from on top of your deck to replace it, and then that card could also be a smuggle card, and then you could like smuggle that right away. It's very interesting. So smuggle for 3 and Cunning, which this isn't a resource. This is just like you have to have that aspect in your deck to play it. So this is interesting because it's a dual aspect card. But when you play this for its smuggle cost, you get to attack with a unit. So it's like a weaker surprise strike. You pay 3 instead of 2 for surprise strike, but it lingers. It's a +2 that lingers. Surprise strike is an event that only occurs once. This is something that would stick around from turn to turn. It has permanence to it. It doesn't disappear. So this is a very interesting card. I will say it's also a rare, which is interesting to me. I think this card is good. I don't think it's like game breaking, but you know what? I could be wrong, because if there's a lot of upgrade synergy in an aggro deck, like if there's like a Mando aggro deck that gets played, this could actually be very, very strong. So let's keep moving here. Next is Timely Intervention. You get to play a unit from your hand and give it ambush for this phase. So essentially it's Energy Conversion Lab on an event. And you can play it for its smuggle cost. So this is kind of a text heavy card, but basically what this is 1 cost Energy Conversion Lab anything from your hand. If you can play it, you have to pay 1. So whatever you play is gonna cost 1 more. And then you could smuggle it later for 2. So essentially you pay 1 more for it later in the game if you resourced it early on. So if you don't like this early game, you can resource it and then play it later for just 1 more resource. That's very, very strong. Next is Privateer Crew. It's a 2/2 for 2 in green, our command. And it does nothing. It's just a 2/2 for 2 Underworld ground unit. And you can smuggle it for 6. So this is kind of a draft card. This is for sure a draft card. You can smuggle it for 6. And if you do smuggle it, you get a bonus. Instead of it being a 2/2, it's a 5/5. It gets 3 experience tokens. That's very interesting. It's sort of like similar to different mechanics I've seen in Magic. But what's weird is they're like accessing the resourcing area, which is fun. This card was spoiled earlier, I think yesterday or even earlier today. It's a 2/6 and it's Crosshair, one of my favorite characters in the Bad Batch. Hopefully we can see a heroism version of him eventually, but he's a command villainy because he went to the Empire, and he has an action here. He's an Imperial Clone Trooper. Action, pay 2, give this unit +1/+0 for this phase. So interesting. I don't think that that's actually super relevant, to be honest. That seems really weak to do. Maybe in draft, that's good. He is a 2/6, so he's beefy. And then you can tap him to have this unit deal damage equal to its power to an enemy ground unit. So it's like one-sided fight mechanic. You can basically dump your power on a ground unit. What's interesting is that this gets around Sentinel. So you can tap this and then, ping off something else you don't like that's behind a Sentinel, which I really think is fun. I just don't think this card is very good though. And I want to be wrong about this because I love Crosshair. And I bet, I hope we get like an alternate art of Crosshair in the weekly promo packs. Next is Unexpected Escape. You have to exhaust a unit. All right. You have to exhaust a unit and you may rescue a captured card guarded by that unit. I don't really know how this works. I don't know if this is exhaust a unit I control, but you basically get to steal back a captured card and then you get to exhaust one of their guys. So I think you exhaust the captured guy most likely, or the bounty, the guy who took the bounty hunter who took took your card. Kind of a weird card. Might be a good sideboard card against like some of these capture decks. There's probably going to be a lot of capture decks out there. This might be a good sideboard tech. Next is Vigilant Pursuit Craft. Vigilant Pursuit Craft. It's a 3/5 for 5 space unit, vehicle transport. It's got Sentinel, and you can smuggle it for 7. So instead of paying 5, you can pay 7. So later on, when you need that key clutch Sentinel to stop you from losing in space, you can just dump this into space from your resource side. So that's very, very interesting. If you're wanting to see more spoilers, again, click the link below. There's quite a few spoilers for next set already, and we're still like, almost April, May, June, July, like 2.5 months from release. So we're getting a lot of spoilers, which is really exciting. But let me know what you guys think about this. I'm still trying to get like the day spoilers come out. If you don't see the live stream, if you're not constantly analyzing the different channels, I'm trying to post a YouTube video as soon as possible. Let me know what your favorite card is from these spoilers. I think Crosshair is mine just because he's cool. The Hotshot Blaster, I think, is probably the most playable competitively. I don't think Timely Intervention is that good, honestly. So the Cartel Turncoat is a card that I think you might think is really good, but I think is actually going to be bad. So let me know what you guys think, and definitely subscribe down below. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.